Welcome to another video from McFatter Tech Musser. If you like these videos, please click subscribe. How you all doing today? So usually I jump right in and go, okay, this is this lab, and then you're going to do this and you're going to do this. And well, one thing I'd like to make everyone aware of is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is around us everywhere. You cannot do anything if you're not aware of the implications that what your actions may cause. Virtually every day in the news there is some new cyber event. If you don't hear about it, it's simply because you didn't happen to hear it. There's many different resources. As you can tell, I also teach cybersecurity, but we use open source intelligence to make ourselves aware of these things. Well, in our labs, we've been using the administrator account to do everything. Well, what do you think the #1 target is for any hacker that's going to try to breach your network? Yeah, the administrator account. They know it exists. There's lists of all the default passwords. They're going to run through that list. Now, we use a very simple password in our labs because we're in a lab environment. But don't take that habit into your production environment, the environment where you have servers that are actually doing work for a company, for a business, for an organization. Take that administrator account, and what you want to do is you want to duplicate it. Once it's duplicated and you've got a new administrator account, then you can disable or delete that administrator account. Because remember, when you create that first domain, the very first time that you take a member server, just a plain old server, and you turn it into a domain controller, and if it's the very first one, that local administrator account becomes the domain administrator. Well, it also becomes the enterprise administrator. So not only does that administrator account hold the keys to the castle, it holds the keys to the entire kingdom. It's like having a master skeleton key that can open any door, anywhere, anytime. So we really need to control that. We want to use long, complex passwords. Why do we use both long and complex? Complex defeats the human element. People have difficulty figuring out, well, where did they use the uppercase instead of the lowercase? Where did they use that special character? What did they use a number to replace? Complexity defeats the human hacker. Length defeats the computer. If you use uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and numbers, in essence, you've got approximately 72 different character combinations. So if we've got 72 different character combinations, that means if we use a single character, there's 72 possible characters that it could be. If we use 2 characters, well, each one of those 72, since we're adding another character, could have 72 different combinations. The result of that is as follows. Let me go ahead and bring up calculator to show you. Just the same way as when we calculate bytes and possible values in binary, well, we can use the power of. So 72 to the power of 2, that's 72 times 2, 5,184 combinations just from a 2-character password that's got 72 different combinations for each place. Well, if that same password has, for example, 8 possible combinations, that's starting to be a big number, right? Well, in terms of computing power, it's not that big a number. A processor, multi-core processor, multi-thread processor, can chew through that number in a fairly decent amount of time. That's why you want to use length. Maybe say a 16-character password. That gets us all the way up to a number that looks something like this. There's lots of possible combinations. It's going to take a long time. The alternative to that is using passphrases. what I do is I encourage my students to go to the following website. How secure is Mypasswordnet? So let's take a look. So it used to be we talked about passwords being 7 or 8 characters, right? So I'm going to use a complex password. I'm going to use a capital, a lowercase, a number, a special symbol, and then a couple other different character combinations. That's a complex password. 8 hours to crack it. It's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, let's take that, and I'm going to extend it out. So we've already used complexity. We've already used those special characters, the uppercase. I've used all 4 combinations, just not 3, like they say. They normally say use 3 of the 4 possible. That's being uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters. Use 3 of those 4. Well, I used all 4, and it's still only 8 hours. So I'm at 8 characters. I'm going to go ahead and add some more. Here's 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16. A trillion years. Now we're getting somewhere. You notice how it went exponentially, But here's another way to do it. Now, this will work anywhere. You just need to add some complexity. So here's a passphrase. It's a passphrase that I'll never forget. And I'm going to tell you what it is. I have a brown dog. And I used a capital in the I, and I used a 0 in brown. I'm never going to forget that because I got a big brown dog laying right over there in the corner. At least as long as I have that brown dog. And then I'm probably going to get another brown dog because I like brown dogs. But look at that. It's an easy password to remember. It's a phrase that, probably nobody's going to guess. But that's the idea. Use a phrase that nobody's going to guess. Add in a cap. Add in a number or a special character. That meets your complexity requirements. Now, why am I bringing this all to light? Well, what I'm going to do in my domain controller is I'm going to change this because there's a second reason why I want to do this. Let's take a look. Let's log into one of our member servers that's joined to our domain. And right now, our domain admin is administrator. So if I type in, now I've already changed it here. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to type in, now you can see it says sign into a datum, right? Administrator. Watch that sign in to. As soon as you type in the username administrator, the server says, oh, you must want to log in locally. Now if you try to do any management where you need access to domain resources, is it going to work? Sorry. So how do you get around that? Well, every time you could do this. You could prefix a datum / to the username administrator. But you know what? You're going to forget. What about after that server reboots? You do a change to it, you need to reboot that server. You will forget. I guarantee everybody does. So here's what you do. Make it easy on yourself. I'm going to right click on administrator and I'm going to say copy. Now you can also do this with a user account that you want to be able to create new users having the same permissions. When we copy a user account, we don't keep the username, but we keep the permissions that are assigned to it. So I'm going to click copy, and I'm going to name this system administrator. And I'm going to make it easy on us. I'm going to simply give that a logon name as sadmin, system administrator, right? going to click Next. It says, hey, give a password. Now, we're still in our test environment, so I'm going to give it the same complex password, the easy one to guess, that capital PA11WORD. I'm going to confirm it. And because we're working in our test environment, I'm still going to say password never expires. But this is not a good practice if you're working in a domain environment. The only passwords that shouldn't expire are those accounts that are designated as service accounts. They're accounts that can't be logged into. They're simply there to run a service. We're going to go ahead and do this. We click Next. We click Finish. So there's my system administrator account. If I want to, what I can do now is disable. But I'm logged in as the administrator, so I don't want to do that yet. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to log off. And when we log back in, I'm going to log in as the system administrator, and then I'll disable the administrator account. It's just a good practice. Depending on your organization, you may delete that administrator account. Okay, so we can see that it still wants us to log in using that old account number, but we're going to change that. We're going to click Other User, and we're going to do sadmin, and of course that same password. We're in a test environment. We're in a sandbox. We don't use easily known passwords in production environments. So the first thing it's going to do is going to have to create that user profile on the server, just like it would if you were logging into a Windows, any other Windows machine. And here comes our desktop up. Should just take a few more moments. So that account is active. I'm just simply waiting for the new account to get configured on my domain controller. But let's go back over to that SVR1 machine, that member server. I'm going to hit Control-Alt-Delete. I'm going to click Other User. I'm going to type in sadmin and my password and enter. Don't have to worry because that account only exists on the domain. Here we go. Setting it up. Back on my DC1. Here comes my desktop. I'm going to go ahead over here to SVR2. We're going to do the same over here. And also SVR3. If we look over in DC1, hopefully our server manager is up by now. Yep, there we go. You notice that that welcome to server manager is back again because here it's a different user account, right? I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. I want to see my important information. I don't need that wizard. I can just go up to Manage or Tools, do whatever I need to do over in Server 1. There we go, Server Manager coming up. Same way over here, Server Manager will be coming up in just a second, and Server 3, it's getting ready to log on, and we should be in good shape there as well. So this is how we go about securing that administrator account, because remember, it's not that first domain controller, the administrator there is not only the domain administrator, it's also the enterprise administrator. and you say, oh, okay, well, how did that work? Let's take a look at users and computers, ADUC. Active Directory Users and Computers. Let's take a quick look there. If we expand this, we select users. First, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right-click and I'm going to disable that account. Let's take another look and look at the properties. Member of. Administrators, domain users, enterprise administrators, group. This has got it all. Remember those 6. Go ahead and close it. I'm going to go down to our system administrator. I'm going to right-click, go to properties. The same membership. When you copy an account, you're also copying the membership. So you could create, if you have a set of permissions that have been applied to a user account, for example, sales, research, whatever it might be, they're members of those specific security groups that are required for them to do their job. You can right-click on one of those and copy it and call it sales template, research template, marketing template. And then whenever you have a new employee, if your organization only brings in employees ever so often, you simply right-click on the template, say copy, provide the new name, the account name, specify any specific information, and your account is created. And you do not have to apply any special memberships. They're already there. I hope you enjoyed this brief lesson. I know it ran a little bit longer than what I anticipated. I thought, I'm going to log in here. We'll bang this out in 2 minutes. Well, maybe there was a little bit more that I wanted to cover there. I have a tendency to do that. Hopefully you found it informative. Put it to use. Use those good practices. There's best practices that we can apply in all situations. Secure not only your network, but your personal life as well. As I always say, I'll see you in the next lab or lesson, or perhaps just that one individual video I happen to post. See you around.